Hiring the right people for your business is perhaps the most important thing you as a business owner ever does. But it's a tough gig. Will the person work out? Will they have the right stuff? Can you keep them busy? Can I trust my judgment? Tune into this episode where we discuss how to stop getting in the situation of asking yourself, why doesn't this hiring thing get any easier?
Can I even find the right person? Are they out there?
Can I keep them busy for long enough?
Is the role even right? Do I really need this person?
Time keeps marching by, opportunities go by because you don't have the people in your business to take advantage of them.
Do I have what it takes to really be able to pick that person and make sure that they're the right fit, A, for the role, B, for the business, and C, that they're actually going to nail it and this will be a good decision all around?
It's way better to have no one than have a bad employee.
You know, I can go and talk to someone for 5 minutes and I just know that they're going to be right.
Yeah, more bad people, not good for lifestyle.
Yep.
More good people, good for lifestyle.
You're already paying for this role by not having it.
Welcome to the podcast, the Profitable Tradie podcast. Tony Fraser-Jones, your host, with my co-host Phil Smith. How you doing, buddy?
Good, always good.
Mate, we're talking about some hiring and mindset stuff and scariness over this. What are we getting into?
Yeah, basically we're getting into the question about whether hiring ever gets easier. And I think a lot of the time, you know, honestly, it doesn't. There's a lot of us out there that have done a lot of hiring or maybe even just a little bit, and it can be really nerve-wracking and really scary, and you can really second-guess your judgment on A, is the role even right? Do I really need this person? And then B, can I even find the right person? Are they out there? And then C, do I have what it takes to really be able to pick that person and make sure that they're the right fit, A, for the role, B, for the business, and C, that they're actually going to nail it and this will be a good decision all around?
And maybe D, can I keep them busy for long enough?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all of this is, you know, playing on your mind when you're hiring, and it's really hard, you know, if you've never done it before and you're not really hiring because you got no idea, and so you're going into all of this blind and you know, really taking a leap of faith. But, you know, for some people that have done it a lot more, you know, a lot of them will actually say, look, this doesn't get easier. You know, there are things that get easier in terms of, you know, I get more used to it and my process gets better and I get more practice, but I'm still just as nervous and scared about all the same things as I was the first time. And, you know, some people are scared of repeating the same mistakes because everyone makes them along the way. Other people are just nervous about the whole process. Some people do seem to have a bit of time of it, but, you know, it can be quite a mixed bag, and it's not something that's easy to do, right?
Yeah, and so what's the difference between those people who seem to be able to forge ahead even when it is a little bit nerve-wracking? Because like you said, I think all of us have some apprehension, some anxiety around hiring, but there's definitely some people who keep pushing on despite that. And so it's understanding, you know, how they manage that, I think, is really important. So what we're going to do today is actually explore some of those challenges and then some ways we can actually make it as easy as it possibly can be, which I think is going to be very, very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a story, mate. It's
yeah,
you're
I've
up
got a
for
story for you today, actually.
Yeah,
so
let's hear it.
Yeah, so I mean, like, you know, I've played quite a lot of sport in my life, and you know, particularly rugby. And one thing I find that's quite similar between rugby and hiring is that you always get nervous. So, you know, for me, I started out as a youngster, and you know, you're learning and you're getting more used to the game, and I used to get really nervous before games because I was like, man, am I going to play well? Am I going to do the right things? Am I going to make my tackles? Am I going to, you know, my pass is going to stick? Am I going to, you know, give away penalties? You know, are we going to win? Are we going to lose? Am I going to get hurt? All of this is playing on your mind. And you know, that was all on my mind. And again, I was relatively inexperienced as a youngster, and so this was all quite justified. The funny thing, though, is that I got older and I got better and I got older and I got better. I ended up playing to quite a high level, and it's funny, like, you get better and better and better at the game, more and more and more likely to play well, less likely to miss tackles, less likely to get hurt, more likely to win, and still just as nervous. You know, the whole morning before the game, I'd be, you know, sort of on edge and you know, really having to do a lot to calm myself down and peak at the right time and turn up at the ground, and you know, the nerves are going hard and all that kind of thing. It's funny. I'm that much better at it at this point, but I'm still nervous. And then nowadays, you know, I'm sort of over the hill, and I'm playing old man rugby these days. It's actually a social grade. And you know, like, honestly, like, it's pretty easy at this point. You know, the skill thing's not a problem. I've done all the training and the hard work to be a decent rugby player. I still get nervous. You know, and it's like, this is going to be a relatively low impact game. It's going to be pretty easy. I'm pretty sure I'll play well. But you know, still get nervous. And so I think it is very similar with hiring, right? Like, when you start out, you don't know what you're doing. You're nervous about the whole process and whether it's going to work. Now, you do get better and better and better at it the more you do it. But it's funny because the nerves never really go away, and the fear never really goes away, and the apprehension and is this going to be right and am I going to get it right is always still going to play on your mind. And so I think, the point of today's pod is just to really dig into that and talk about how we deal with it.
Well, it's funny you say that, 'cause it's just clicked in my head is we're doing some interviews today. I'm involved in some interviews today for recruiting a new executive assistant to help me in our business. I'm actually nervous about that.
First time in ages
Well,
you've
I
actually
haven't done a lot of
interviewed
hiring recently. I mean, the team does it. That's another whole story. But I'm thinking all of those things. Will we have enough work? Will I be a good boss? All that stuff is in your head. And so it's quite ironic that we're doing this pod today. Maybe I can do some self-coaching.
Well, we hired 15 people last quarter. I think it gets to a point where you get pretty good at this.
Yeah.
And yet, the fear is there every time. So I think obviously if we don't find a way to actually move past this fear, we can run into some issues.
Yeah, I think the thing with fear freezes you, it stalls you, it makes you get stuck, and it gets you stuck through procrastination because you're trying to mentally go through the gymnastics of working everything out, taking care of all the eventualities, and all the fear of just it not working out causes you to stall. And that means you don't make a decision. It means you can miss a lot of opportunity because time keeps marching by. Opportunities go by because you don't have the people in your business to take advantage of them. So that's massive. And the result of that is that it can actually stall the growth of your business. And the terrible thing, and this is the hidden thing I think that's missed, is that fear of making a mistake or not getting it right actually causes you to be very busy. It actually puts a lot of pressure on your lifestyle because you're not making the decisions to free up time to get some time back yourself because you're just loading everything on your shoulders and all the rest of your team's shoulders. So it puts a lot of pressure on everyone and becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, absolutely. But on the other hand, if we can move past this fear,
you become an action taker. That's the key. Like results require action, and hiring is an action point. It's a decision that needs to be made, and so you'll make decisions. And the cool thing is you'll get that learning cycle because you're not going to get this right all the time. In fact, initially you'll probably get some of it wrong. That's okay. In fact, that's to be expected. That's what happens with anything.
Yeah.
A toddler learns to walk by falling over again and again and again for weeks and months, and that's what often happens with business. Now we can shorten that process, and some of the things we talk about today will really help with that. But you'll take action, you'll get results, you'll take advantage of opportunities, your business can grow, you can build your lifestyle because you're buying time back and just make your business a happier place for you and your team, which is exciting. It's the key to success.
Yeah, totally. So should we dig into how to do this?
Yeah, well, the first thing is this is an important thing to understand because when you're a tradesperson or a technician and you're growing your business, often you're very involved with the jobs, the projects, what's happening out in the field, out on site. And so that's really your main focus. Your job is to get the jobs done. But actually your job as a business owner is to hire good people. That's your most important job. That's the most impactful thing you'll do in your business to create profit and lifestyle and wealth, hiring people. It's the key leverage point. You can only spend your time once. You hire people, you can multiply the amount of impact you're having in your business. You've got to have more people to grow profit. You've got to have more people to get the lifestyle you want. More good people. Yeah. More bad people, not good for lifestyle.
Yep.
More good people, good for lifestyle.
Yeah.
But the thing is, hiring is actually quite complex because it involves people. And people are complex. And so it's not a perfect science.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can't know the future all the time.
Yeah.
In fact, the best way to know the future is to create it. But that's kind of what we're talking about here. So it's just a massively important area to get right.
Yeah, so basically you can't avoid it. You're going to have to do it anyway, and so we have to deal with this fear.
It's our key job.
Yeah, and I think in this case, if you're right at the start of this, just understand it will be really hard at the start, and you probably will make some mistakes. So if you haven't done a lot of hiring, just understand you will make some mistakes, and so the fear, does have some justification, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't move past it. You just have to understand, as you said, Tone, making those mistakes is how you learn. Toddler learns to walk by falling over. And you will make some mistakes. You're not going to get it perfect every time. It's also going to be really tricky for you if you don't have the right process in place and you start thinking things like, man, I can just eyeball someone. I just know. I can go and talk to someone for 5 minutes and I just know that they're going to be right. That kind of mindset's obviously not going to serve you very well in terms of...
It's the classic interview, isn't it, where you do all the talking and they do all the listening, where it wants to be the other way around, but that's another whole story.
Yeah, totally. And personally, I find it hard not to do all the talking. You know me.
Yeah,
but
I
you know,
say nothing.
also really tricky. You know, if you've only done it once or twice ever, or if you only do it once or twice every couple of years. You know, if you're not hiring that often. You know, these are all things that do make it more difficult, because you're not going to get that continuity, and you know, if you're pretty fresh to it and you haven't had much practice, you will make some mistakes as part of it, and that is part of the fear that you have to accept.
Yeah, and I think the thing with that is sometimes when you make mistakes like that, it almost confirms your opinion that this is a bad idea or this isn't going to work. And I just encourage you, if you found yourself in that situation, you've got to be really careful of that, because that's confirmation bias. It's like, well, I thought that would happen, and that's what happened.
Yeah, and so therefore my thoughts are correct.
Therefore my thoughts are correct. Well, actually, you know, you need to challenge that. It could be just the way you implement it, and your skill level and your experience and all that sort of stuff could actually be the problem. In fact, it is the problem, because this can be done successfully. So be very careful when it doesn't go your way initially, to step back and say, okay, well, what do I need to learn here? And that's really where we go, because reps count here. You learn from experience. This is massively important, and that's why a bigger business is generally are better at doing this. And the reason for that is they've done it more.
Yeah.
It's just simply reps. So if you want to build abs, you got to push the tin.
Yeah.
You want biceps, you got to lift the weights. And it's the same with hiring. And so bigger businesses have done it more, and also they have more people involved too. They can get more perspectives as well. So that's really important. You have to do the reps. If you don't make the decisions and actually do the hiring, it's not going to get any easier, because basically you're just doing it once in a while and you'll just repeat the same mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think then obviously as you do get bigger, or you have done this more often, just understand it will get easier. You know, it will get easier. Your process will become more refined. You know, you're going to become more confident in what you're doing. You'll have some confirmation bias in a positive way as well, where, you know, things have actually worked out in the past. And so you're not as jaded by, you know, failures, because you'll have some successes under your belt as well. And so things do get easier. But it doesn't get easy, and I think that's really the key to understand here, is that you're still going to have fears. You'll just become, you know, more and more confident that you can put those fears to rest and actually do things the right way. Because at the end of the day, you still do have someone else's future in your hands, and that's a burden of responsibility that is always there. You know, it doesn't matter if, you know, you're already supporting a staff of 100 people. When you go to 101, that's still one more person. It's one more person's family. It's you know, it's a whole nother, you know, household that might be relying on you keeping them employed. And so you're still going to have those fears about, do we have enough work? You know, can I actually keep this person busy? Is this job still going to be relevant in 6 months? You know, am I going to have the cash flow to continue to pay this person? What if I have to let them down? What if I've hired them badly and they're actually not that good, and now I've got to lay them off, and now I've got to let their whole family down, and you know, then I'm going to have to deal with this? Or what if I put myself in a tough situation by taking on too many people? Now I can't afford it. Now I've jeopardized my family. These are still going to be all the fears that are, you know, weighing on you and are going to be in your head. And even though you'll get better and better at the process, and, you know, more and more confident in what you're doing, and therefore it gets easier, it doesn't get easy, because at the end of the day, there is still a judgment call to make. Like, you're gonna get to the end of your process, and you'll know, you know, logically, I've done everything right. I've ticked all the boxes. I've done all the steps, and I've assessed everybody the right way. But you still have to decide, and it's still that yes or no. And so at the end of the day, the responsibility for whether it works is still going to lie with you. And, you know, that's a responsibility that doesn't sit lightly on your shoulders.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, literally, we've coached thousands and thousands of business owners, and so you see patterns of behavior. And one of the classic patterns we see is your business has grown, you've maybe got 5, 6, 7, 8 techs or tradespeople, you're still managing everything, and you're tapped out, you're busy, there's some inefficiencies out in the field, your margins are suffering, you're missing stuff, there's mistakes happening, team are getting disgruntled, clients are getting frustrated, and you're wondering what's going on, why aren't the team performing? And then you have a discussion with the coaches or in the members group, and it's like, you need an operations manager. Oh, yeah, I need an operations manager. And that discussion will happen for most people for 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, before they take the plunge.
Before they take the plunge, because basically there's loose-bowed terror about making the decision.
Yeah.
People are literally shitting themselves to do it, and that's really normal. And so, but as soon as they do it, they're like, become the biggest advocate for it happening to the next person who's asking this question.
Oh yeah.
So it's pretty funny.
You get past that one,
You
and
do.
the next thing you're scared about an estimator, and then you're scared about other pricing stuff. You're scared about scheduling stuff. You're scared about it's every time you add that new role. It's funny because you're the biggest advocate for the last one you were scared about. Now it's worked for you. But then it's funny because you think you've overcome that fear and that those behaviours, but you just repeat it on a different context, really, and that never goes away. It never does. So I think understanding that's actually a big part of the weaponry to moving past it.
One little trick that's worked well for me is when you delegate hiring, it definitely gets easier. And so in our business and in a number of our larger clients' businesses, the CEO or the GM or some of the senior leaders don't do all the hiring. In fact, they don't do much hiring because that's the responsibility of the department heads and some of the line managers. And so that definitely makes it easier for you as a business owner. So that's a little trick. Particularly, that's how you scale too. Once you delegate to other people, then you can grow much more quickly, because if it's just you doing all the hiring, you become a massive bottleneck. And that was a massive problem in our business. Trying to find time in my calendar to do interviews was just backing things up. It was taking too long to do interviews. We're losing good candidates, and just stuff wasn't happening. As soon as we got rid of that, massive growth happened. And it's way easier for you as a business owner as well. Now, there'll be another whole fear around that is, hey, are they going to do a good job of hiring?
Yeah.
Well, funny, they're doing a better job because they do it more often in really in the detail of what's required in their departments and areas. So that's the next level, which definitely makes it easier.
Yeah, look, I've got to say, I'm quietly nervous about you turning up to this interview
I'm
today,
quietly
Tony.
nervous about me too.
It's been a while, bro. I'm like, I don't know if you're going to get this right.
I'll try not to make a fool of myself.
I have fears. I have all these fears about, like, Jesus, Tony going to come and really stir this pot the wrong way. And so it's funny. You get those fears no matter what. They just manifest in different ways.
They do, 100%.
Look, let's get into how to make this easier. I think the first thing I want to touch on is that fear around whether or not it's the right role, because we can be scared about a lot of things, but I think one of the first fears that often comes up is, do I even need this? So whether it's a tradesman and you're taking on one of your first tradesmen, do I really need another guy in the field? Or maybe you have a lot of tradesmen and you're still thinking that, do I really need another guy? Can I really keep another truck busy? Is going to be a fear there. Or it could be a role in the office. Do I really need an office manager? Or do I really need an estimator? Or maybe do I really need an office assistant? It could be anything, but do I really need the role? Can I really sustain this is the first fear. And I think for me, a big part of dealing with fear is to rationalize what you're scared about. Because often with fear, it's false expectations appearing real. And so in this case, it's like being able to rationalize what you're talking about and actually put it into logical terms can help you de-escalate that fear down to a much more logical decision. And I think doing the numbers is where I'd start. So the first thing on this is figure out, well, what's the role going to cost you? So in this case, let's say you're hiring an office person and they're going to cost, say, $70,000 worth of salary per year, just as a round number. So it's about $5,800 per month. So straight away when I pull it down into a monthly amount, I go, actually, it's not that much.
It feels better.
It feels a lot better. Your $70,000 is a lot, but $5,000 a month, $5,800 a month, I'm like, yeah, it's not so bad.
Well, it's actually important because you're not paying the $70,000 all at once.
No, and again,
it's not costing you $70,000.
And if they're not the right person,
you get rid of them.
You're actually not going to ever have paid them a total of $70,000 because you'd have moved them on before then. So I think the key is bring it down to a monthly amount, brings it a lot more into something that you can actually perceive. In a much more meaningful way and start to justify in a more meaningful way. The next thing is calculate the break even on that. So if you take that amount and you divide it by your current gross profit margin, it'll tell you the revenue that you need to achieve in order to break even on that salary. And so in this case, I actually did this exact amount just yesterday with a client, and we figured out divided by his gross profit margin, it meant about $16,700 worth of extra revenue per month. Now, at that point, I asked this guy, I said, hey, do you reckon you could do another $16K a month in sales? And he's like, oh, easily. Like, we're definitely letting that slide at the moment. Like, this wouldn't even be hard. And at that point, he was instantly less scared about the role. But then it goes further. I said, hey, look, I know you're worried about creating this role, but if you don't, then there's a bunch of tasks and things that are needing to be done, right? And that's why you're thinking about the role. So let's just say, devil's advocate, you don't hire. And those tasks need to continue being done by other people. Who are they done by? And he lists off the various names and roles. I'm like, how much of their time is it taking? And he lists off the amount of time. And I said, and what tasks would they be able to do if they were no longer spending time on the task that would go to this role? And, it was catching up on a backlog of pricing. It was sales activities that were not being done. It was follow-ups that were not being completed. It was, a lot of really important stuff. And I said, do you think it's likely that if they spent the time that would now be available, going deeper into those tasks, that they could make you another $16,000 a month? And he said, probably more like 50. And I was like, okay, well, in that case, understand the opportunity cost here. When you really get into the numbers, you're already paying for this role by not having it. And when you put it into those terms, you start to realize, yes, actually, this is the right role. I do need it.
Yeah.
Same with a tradesman, right? Like, you get a tradesman on the tools. Most trades, qualified tradie on the tools are going to do about 25 to 30K worth of revenue per month if they're in there.
Depending on the trade,
some more, some less. But let's just say 25K. So in this case, if you got a 40% margin, this person's going to make you $120,000 worth of gross profit per year. Because it's about 25K a month, 300K in revenue, 40% of that's 120,000. There's $120,000 worth of profit you weren't making before. And people will have a fear and they say, well, what if I can't keep them busy? And I'm like, cool, so if they're busy 50% of the time and the other 50% of the hours you pay them, they're just picking their nose, you make $60,000 of profit you never made before. So, I mean, like, seriously, like, you can afford it, you can stomach it, but when you do the numbers on it, it becomes very, very clear and it dissipates a lot of that fear. So I think that's the first step.
And there's a real important theme here, and particularly for those off the, in the office, off the tools jobs where we often feel like it's just cost, is what you'll find is if you don't have enough capacity in your back office and your office to do this stuff, you'll find your revenue finding people, which is your salespeople, your marketing people, your pricing people, often you as the owner who's out building relationships, you never have time to do that stuff because you're just doing admin and support stuff. And it's always the stuff that grows the business that doesn't happen because it's, by very nature, it has to be proactive. It doesn't hit you in the face every day. You have to go out there and make it happen.
Yep.
And the other stuff just comes to you, which has to be done. And so we get this kind of false cost-benefit thing. We don't see the missed opportunities. We just see the actual cost. And that's where the opportunity cost is so powerful. That's where the misses you're not making cost you so much. And so I think that's a really important mindset shift to help you get comfortable with this process.
Totally. Like, the best way to afford an estimator is to have an estimator, because now you can price enough extra work to actually pay for the estimator. Whereas, like, if you don't price that work, you can't win it, and you never win it, and you never get the money.
If you don't have it quite enough to keep them full, it's like, okay, then I've opened up the next bottleneck, which is my sales and marketing activity needs to be better to keep them full. And I'm going to need to do that to grow my business anyway. Yeah. So by not making the hiring decisions, it's costing you all this stuff downstream. It's like climbing a mountain. You can't be at the top of the mountain at the start. You've got to take all the steps along the way and figure it out. And this is the same sort of process. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, again, it goes into anything. You want someone to go and make sales for you, right? Like, whether it's a CSR or a designated salesperson, whatever it might be. It's like, salespeople are free, man, because they either make you a lot more sales, in which case they pay for themselves easily, or they don't, in which case they're a bad salesperson. You get rid of them.
Get a new one.
But if you find you're actually having to pay for a salesperson, then they're not making sales. Right, like, it's as simple as that. So often when you do the numbers on it and you realize the activities that they're going to do or that they're going to free up time to do, it's so much easier to justify whether or not that role makes sense.
Yeah. So the first part of getting over this fear is understanding, is it the right role? The second part is it the right person? So that fear of, am I going to get the wrong person? And so there's a bunch of stuff you can do to actually lessen that fear, to build your confidence up so that you crack on and make the decisions. And with the right person, there's the 3 Ps. And if you get these right, this will be way easier. And like, we have a process, 11-step hiring process. We don't need to go into all that, but having a good process is important. That's the first P. And so that means you step it out. You make sure you do a telephone interview and you have a script for that.
Yeah.
Like, these are the specific questions you ask to make sure you only interview good people. You have a specific template for how your job ads are written, because I can tell you 100% different job ads will attract different people. A rubbish job ad will get a bunch of riffraff. Good candidates will respond to a high quality job ad because they can see something that's a bit different about your setup. And all the areas of that process need to be scripted, like the interview template. These are the questions you ask. That's important. The reference check, that's got to be scripted. Has really important questions in there. Like, for example, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to rehire this person? that's a specific question you must ask. And if they're not a 9 or a 10, you shouldn't hire them. So scripting that all out and having it written down will give you so much confidence, because you're like, okay, well, there's a good process here. It's repeatable. I know it's robust. I can rely on it. So that's really important. That's the first P.
Yep, cool. And then the second P is positioning. So in this case, the stronger your positioning is, the more likely you are to actually take on the right people. So, this comes down to, A, are you positioned as an employer of choice? Can people see on your social media? Can they see, on your website? Can they see, the word that's out in the community, that, what you're putting forward in terms of your presentation of your uniform? All of these things are all going to position you as someone who's a great employer and someone who's great to work for. And that really does set you up for success in your hiring process, because it attracts good people. Like, good places to work attract good people to work in them. And so that's going to give you a much, much better chance of taking the right people on. You can be a lot more confident in that. Are you paying top dollar? So again, if I'm not paying top dollar for people, the chance of getting the right ones and the best ones is lower. Whereas if I pay really well and I have good benefits and it's a great place to work, I'm way more likely to have positioned myself well and be taking on the right people, which does a lot to, actually build your confidence and do away with that fear. Next thing is practicing everything. So, once you've got that process in place, if I really practice it and put a lot of time and effort into perfecting that craft, I can be a lot more confident I'm going to get it right on the day. So, it's going to make me sound a lot more professional. It's going to make me sound a lot more polished. It's going to make me sound a lot more confident. And all of that is actually going to make me more confident, because I'm more likely to actually get this right and end up with the right person at the end. And I can create an experience for them through that practice that they may not have had before. And so they'll be really impressed. It really sells them on the role, and that's going to help me to not only attract, but to bring on the very best people, which does fill you with confidence, because you're way more likely to get this right than anybody else in the market. And so you're positioned really strongly.
Yeah, it's all about power in this relationship. And most time when we're hiring, which really does damage your confidence, is we feel like we're asking and we're begging and we're trying to cajole them to work for us. Oh, this is a great opportunity. We're doing hard sell. Don't get me wrong. You should 100% market and sell your jobs. In fact, your marketing and sales for your team is more important than your marketing and sales for getting work.
Yeah, arguably.
But when you position well, employer of choice, they can see socials with all the cool stuff you do with your team, that you've got good values. Your team members are referring people to work with you. That's when you know you've got this right. When they go through the process, it's so professional, they're impressed. All of a sudden, you've got something that they want. You've got the carrot. That's the key thing. So rather than them having the carrot, you've got the carrot. You're the one who's in the position of power, and that makes this so much more confident for you as the hirer.
Yeah. That really brings us to number 3,
which is
P.
Patience.
Hardest one.
This is really hard. It's way better to have no one than have a bad employee. I think I've said it before. It's better to be unhappily single than unhappily married.
Better to have an empty house than a bad tenant.
That's right.
That's what I say when I break wind.
Yeah, that's right. So that's really important. It's very easy to snatch at stuff and be a bit needy because you need someone, and that's really going to damage your confidence with this process. So remember the 3 Ps: process, positioning, and patience. That's absolutely critical to getting this right.
Yeah, and so basically between those 2 things, doing the numbers and getting to make sure the role is right, and then doing those 3 Ps and making sure we're confident in the process, it does fill us with a lot more confidence and really puts to bed that fear that we're feeling in the first place, and makes a replicatable process for you to get this right. So should we land that plane?
Hiring never gets easy, but it does get easier the more you do it. The key here is to have good systems and processes and take lots of action so that you build your confidence and you don't get held back by the fear of making a mistake, because the fear of making a mistake will stall your business growth. It'll affect your lifestyle. It won't make your life much fun. Thanks heaps for listening. We'll catch you all again next time.
See you later.
Congratulations on being part of a select group of savvy business owners who are taking their businesses to the next level. And to help you on your journey, don't forget to check out our show notes for a copy of our free book, The Profitable Tradie, and other valuable resources. Thanks for being a part of this special group, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Profitable Tradie podcast.